Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in. Today we got a more technical video. So I do want to thank my viewer Ali for suggesting this because I realized that I didn't have a video where I discussed this directly, but as you can tell with the title, we're going to be discussing the pros and cons of going the stock location route or just upgrading your stock location turbo or going the top mount route. Thankfully, I've had the chance to actually experience both setups. So if you guys didn't know, I ran a Pure 800 on this car for a while, I think like 20,000 some odd miles. So mainly the majority of the time that I've had this car. Now it has a top mount 6870. So I'm going to discuss my experiences related to it. So I'm not going to go over the super technical aspects of why you should go top mount, why you should stay with a stock location, and then discuss the numbers, the hard numbers in regards to where like the boost will hit, just because there's so many different setups and different fueling, tuning, whatever you can do with this car. So just remember that whenever you guys are watching this video. I'm going to include the bookmarks as always with this video. So if you guys are just wanting to jump into the relevant section that you're interested in, definitely jump to those. But let's go ahead and begin and discuss the stock location options, pros and cons of it, and then we'll do the top mount route. Okay, so we got the hood popped to go over first stock location options and the pros and cons for saying stock location. So the great thing about a stock location turbo is that you're going to be using a lot of the stock or OEM or maybe slightly upgraded lines. So specifically oil lines and water lines, since the stock turbo is water and oil cooled. You're going to reuse that. Mainly, I only speak from the Pure 800 option. I don't know how any of the other ones handle their lines. As far as I'm aware, they usually provide those lines. It's all a kit and then you basically just bolt it on. The options that you guys will have for the stock location upgraded turbo route is the Pure 850. So they used to have the Pure 800, but they upgraded that. So now it's a Pure 850. If you're wondering about the cost, if you supply the core, so what that means is you pull your stock location turbo, or your stock turbo, I should say, and then you send it over to Pure, they will actually charge you a lower price than if you were to not provide a core. But it's $2,750 if you supply the core. If you have a 2-port or a 2020 Supra and you don't supply a core, you just add $1,200 on top of that. So doing some quick math, that's $3,950. Or if you have a 6-port turbo or a 2021 Plus, then it's going to be $1,800 on top of the $2,750. So total costs are on the screen if you're going to go that route. I know some people have been complaining that the Pure 800 is unreliable. I personally haven't had any trouble with that. So take my consideration with a grain of salt, just because every single person is going to have different experiences. Of course, they treat their cars a little bit differently, but my car was daily driven, put a ton of miles on it. It was, again, like I said, it was on this car a majority of my ownership, and I've had this car for over 3 years now. So another option that you have on top of that is the CTS turbo route. So that one, you actually do not have to send your core out because the turbo that they use is actually Garrett based. The cost for that is $2,600. So one thing that people didn't realize from the beginning when that option first came out is that people were having trouble with the boost. People were blowing their cars up and people were wondering why that was occurring. So the thing with the CTS turbo route, and I've talked with a handful of tuners in regards to this, is that you do have to get an aftermarket charge pipe with a blow-off valve or a bypass valve. That's just, I personally don't have any experience related to that setup, but with the professionals that have provided me that information, just remember that if you are interested in the CTS turbo route, you will have to get an aftermarket charge pipe with a flange for a aftermarket bypass valve or blow-off valve. Another option that you have is the DAW turbo. So I don't know the exact sizing of that, but that starts at $2,950 for a 2-port and it is $3,150 for a 6-port. So this turbo, actually, you do not have to provide a core. You just buy the turbo and whatever is included and you just install it. And then of course, the last option is the Vargas Turbo Technologies or VTT route. This one also does not require a core. Definitely check out all of the websites related to these turbos so you can get more information on that. But generally, all of these turbos, if you're wondering what their max power is, it's around 700s, around 700, or even a high reading dyno or just anyone that wants to be bold, it'll get up to 800. I'll discuss more on the con section why it is not recommended to max out a stock location aftermarket turbo. But let's go ahead and go over the pros first. So of course the pros are with a stock location, it is less complex than going a top mount route. And also it's great because you can get a stealth look on your engine bay. So if you're one of those guys that likes to troll people, just tell them that you're a downpipe and E50 tune kind of guy, then you can just pop your hood and show them, because they're probably not going to know what to look for and they're not going to see a big ass precision turbo in your engine bay. And then also it's probably going to be your most responsive turbo option compared to a top mount, unless you're running a smaller top mount like a 6466 or an equivalent Zona rotor route. Also, it's your lowest cost entry, of course. You'll see the comparison between a stock location aftermarket turbo and the top mount routes. It is definitely more pricey, but hey, you'll see the benefits and the cons for that, and I'll go over that in the next section. If you are wanting to run a catch can, your options are more available. So for me, I ran a forged catch can whenever I had the Pure 800. I personally, and again, this is my personal experience, I personally didn't feel like there was a need for it, because even though it was better to have that peace of mind, there wasn't actually any oil in the catch can. If there was, it was maybe a couple of drops. And that was throughout my entire ownership of having that turbo. So I probably had that turbo on my car for over a year. So just want to mention that over to you guys. We'll go over the cons now. Like I mentioned earlier, is you don't necessarily want to run a higher boost on a stock location aftermarket turbo, and even the stock turbo itself. Typically, from what I've been told and what I've seen, is that any boost levels above 33 to 35 PSI, it is not ideal, just because the stock turbo or stock location, it's going to generate so much heat that you run the risk of frying your internals on your car. You don't want to have a blown turbo, so just keep that in mind. Because of the very tight clearance with where the stock location turbo sits, your room for growth is going to be very limited. So just keep that in mind if you guys are the type to get an itch for more power later down the road. But if you're that type of person, top mount is definitely going to be your best option. So let's go over your options for the top mount route right now. So move the camera a little bit closer so you guys can see my setup. So if you guys are not familiar with my setup, I discuss this in a bunch of my videos, but in short, I have a top mount 6870. This is a discontinued Vendetta racing kit, and I have all supporting mods. Let's go ahead and go over your top mount location options. You of course can kit out your own turbo kit. Sam, whose car I featured actually on my channel, check out the annotations and the link in the description box below if you guys want to see his build. He actually kitted out his top mount 6870 setup a little bit different. I think he's running a full race manifold and then custom piping, and then a couple of other people local here in DFW, they're doing the same thing, but a good amount of us are also running kits. So the most popular options are, and I'll go ahead and put the 6870 options on the screen as I'm discussing these turbo kits, because typically that's the reason why you want to go the top mount route is, of course, have a bigger turbo that can max out your setup or have some room for growth. So if you guys are not aware, 6870 is typically the recommended route to go with this platform, just because it has the perfect balance of power and responsiveness. Not as responsive as a stock location turbo, but You do want those pros whenever you're running a street car like this or even a drag car, because these turbos are capable of producing power up to over 1,000, I think. But the options that you have is the ETS kit. So from what I've seen, that is typically the most expensive turbo kit that you can kit out. Your next option is KLM. A lot of the big name guys, they are either running ETS or KLM. I was actually going to run KLM on my car until I found a good deal on this. I am selling my 2-port KLM 6870 with a heat protection package. It is still for sale, so hit me up on Instagram if you guys are interested in that kit. But KLM, they provide a lot of big name guys such as mkiv, who is my tuner, who currently has the world record for the fastest Supra, but he is running a KLM kit. It's not the kit that you see on the screen right now, but it is an upgraded KLM Savage Series kit. Main difference between the Savage Series and the normal is that the normal runs a 3.5-inch downpipe, whereas the Savage runs a 4-inch downpipe. You also have the option for P-tuned. P-tuned, they typically run Zona rotor turbos, and they have a lot of different options that you can kit out. That is what you guys can go with as well. Another route that you can do is DocRace. I don't know many people that run DocRace. There's a couple of people on the Facebook groups that do run it to success, so you guys can go that route. It's typically cheaper than a lot of the other ones that I'm listing in this section. And then of course, last but not least, you have Titan Motorsports top mount kit. I don't remember off the top of my head what turbo they run, but you can see it on the screen here. They do run a full race manifold, and typically that is the highest regarded manifold that you can run, but any of the other options, top options, they are great with their quality. So no recommendations on what to run. Just find the top mount kit that best fits your budget and then do your research and go with that. So now let's go over the pros and cons of a top mount kit. So pros, there's more options for going bigger. So let's say you guys start with a 6870 or you start with a 6466. If you're wanting a bigger turbo, you basically just get a bigger turbo. You don't have to completely get a whole new kit. You just unbolt this and then put your new turbo on, and then you tell your tuner to upgrade your map, and then you're good to go. Another pro is, of course, it's cooler looking. You can pop your hood and then everyone sees the turbo and they're like, oh, that's cool. You got people to take pictures, but of course, if you have a stock location turbo, even if it's upgraded, no one's gonna really know what to look at, so they're not gonna be as amazed. So if you're not really the attention seeker, then choose wisely, I guess. And then for the cons, of course, as you guys saw with the options that you have, it is a much higher cost than the stock location turbo. Of course, those kits, they include everything. That includes like the charge pipe, the manifold, the downpipe, the turbo, all the fittings and stuff. Even though they include it, it is a higher price. So just keep that in mind if you are more budget oriented. A couple of people, of course, are parting out their cars and they had a top mount and they're selling it at a discount. That's actually what I did for my car. I put like 2,000 miles on my car and I haven't had any problems. With all of the parts involved, there is more complexity. You know, you're gonna have to remove a lot of other stuff. You're gonna have to do some trimming if applicable. Some of the parts maybe that you're running on your car right now, it's not even gonna be compatible. Like for me, I was running a Cusco strut brace here and I can't use it just because it hits the turbo. You're gonna have to upgrade the other parts in your build. So to really maximize your setup, you're gonna have to run a build transmission. You're gonna have to run, you know, additional fueling. If you drag race, and you're gonna have to upgrade your axles. I mean, you can break your axles at a much lower power level, but you're definitely gonna break axles at a higher power level with whatever your turbo is capable of. And then of course, you'll need to run a catch can. So ETS, they have their own catch can, KLM does. And I think P-Tune has their own catch can. You're gonna have to run that because you're gonna run a higher crankcase pressure, so the oil has to go somewhere. You're gonna have to run either an upgraded valve cover or run block-off plates like what I'm running on my car, so you're not spewing oil all over your hood. So you don't want that mess. It is a pain in the ass. I have some friends who have dealt with that, but you're gonna have to go with a catch can, and then you'll have to make sure you do your due diligence and make sure you're monitoring your oil levels using your infotainment system, and then also emptying your catch can and topping off your oil every so often. So that's something that you don't necessarily have to worry about when you run a stock location turbos. You guys have a lot of options on this video. Let's go ahead and wrap up this video so you can make your decision on what you want to do for your build. All right, so there you guys have it. Thanks for tuning in to the discussion of why you should either go stock location or top mount. The option is there. Thankfully, the aftermarket community for this car has been very, very responsive, and they're always pushing out new stuff. So to really summarize everything, what I would say in terms of just my strict opinion, if you are not really worrying about the straight line performance of this car, you're wanting to be more focused on the responsiveness, and also if you're going to take your car to the circuit or a road course, definitely stick with a stock location setup, because you're really not searching for just all-out power. If you're wanting all-out power, going straight line and stuff, basically what everyone does here in the South, not necessarily everybody, but a majority of people, especially here in Texas, they want to go straight line, then definitely go the top mount route, just because, like I discussed, there's a lot of turbos that you can go with, and the room for growth is definitely there. Again, I want to thank Ali for the suggestion for this video idea. If you guys have any other video ideas, definitely leave them in the section down below. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys in the next one.